I don't know. That's weird.
It's all right.
Okay.
All right, let's start this thing. Yeah, what I'll do,
Yeah.
I'll just keep switching back to the YouTube window is actually dark, so I'll see what we need on the notes, and then I'll go back to the dark window. I'll just go back and forth.
Blinding and then dark. Blinding and then dark.
All right, I'm just gonna should have
Warning. Seizure warning.
Let's see if this intro music works. Hello and welcome to Crowbar Kernel Panic, the podcast at the intersection of Linux and gaming. This is episode 28, and we are recording live straight to YouTube at Crowbar Kernel Panic on YouTube. We also normally we're streaming to like 6 other places or something like that, but we're not doing that tonight. Just straight to Crowbar Kernel
Keeping
Panic.
it simple.
Keeping it simple. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also available on anywhere podcasts are available at Crowbar Kernel Panic, as well as we like to hang out on the Linux Mintcast Discord in the gaming section. Have we talked about it on the show yet? We get to 200 subscribers. We want to make our own Discord. I don't know if we've said that on the show yet. I know that we've said that amongst each other.
We might have mentioned it last time, but I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe so. But yeah, we should start working on that now that we're both kind of getting settled in and getting back on our normal routine of doing this podcast.
Yeah, finally. Oh man, that was just crazy.
We'll try to get back into that. But you can send us an email at crowbarkernelpanic@pm.me, or I have the link to that Discord in the show notes. This week, we do have a few comments to go over, but we're going to be talking some news articles relating to Nvidia and EVGA's their breakup, the big separation. This is we're a T channel now. We're going to be talking about the big breakup in the tech industry.
Yeah, it's like I did not see it coming.
Yeah, I think people on the like very inside may have, but otherwise, it comes as a pretty big shock. I want to discuss some game development news. I think I've learned a pretty good bit since I last was like talking about it.
Yeah, this sounds exciting.
And I have a game idea. I've actually already started on. I think I'm actually biting off more than I can chew. Like I think I probably need to tone it down to a much simpler project. Oh
come on, you don't want to live stream your game dev? Come on.
Actually,
that's the thing now.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might want to start doing that. Right now, I'm so early in it that I'm not comfortable enough doing that because
a lot of silence probably because you're trying to read things and figure things out.
Right, yeah. I don't want to stream myself like just watching some YouTube channel learning how to do what I'm doing, But once I get past that point where I'm actually able to do things without watching someone else do it, then maybe I'll live stream it. But I'm not there yet. So far, everything I've done, I've needed to watch or read about it first. But then I want to talk about the games that I've been playing since starting game development that I'm kind of using as my inspiration. And I think that arises some
that sounds cool too.
Concepts, yeah. But first, let's dive into some of this EVGA and Nvidia news. I got 2 articles linked here in the show notes, but they're both kind of talking about the same topic. I think that I think you can tell by the headlines that they're 2 articles that are kind of talking about the same subject but from different angles. One is EVGA is reportedly so sick of working with Nvidia that it's going to stop making graphics cards altogether. And then the other article is about the same topic, but it takes more of the approaches. It talks about how EVGA is they're struggling with making any kind of margin on graphics cards. And so report says EVGA had other reasons to stop making graphics cards, meaning other than just they felt bullied by Nvidia.
Yeah, but like my thing with that article, well, I don't know. We'll get into it when we get to it, but like there's this huge hole in that article's plot, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah. I put it in there because I'm curious.
No, I agree that it's a good article because I was like, wow, that's interesting. I wonder if that's true because I could see
I
something
just
like that being the
I
case.
just wonder if that's their more Nvidia slanted angle. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if you were a writer and you wanted to kind of slant the story, to paint
Exactly.
Nvidia in a better light, you might would take that approach to it. Not that either one is actually wrong; they're looking at the same events. Um,
Right.
but I thought that was interesting. But so I actually got more information about this from watching other YouTubers talk about the situation. There's some
Yeah.
really great videos out there to describe what's going on, but EVGA and Nvidia has had this relationship for like 20 plus years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like been forever.
1999.
That's so crazy. Yeah, 1999. So
Yep.
22 years. I mean, going on 23 years. I know that I have an EVGA right now, and I feel like all my previous cards were probably mostly EVGAs. I've had
Yep.
a wide range, but I've had a lot of EVGAs, and a lot of it had to do with
Same here.
I was a Best Buy employee, and that's what Best Buy sold, and
Yep.
so that's what I would get my employee discount on, and so I've owned a ton of EVGA cards over the
Yeah.
year.
And I've never had an issue with any of them.
No, they great cards. I've never had
Yep.
to use their like warranty programs, but from what I understand, they have really good warranties.
Mm-hmm.
They cover their products really well from everything I've ever heard. Again, I've never needed to use it. I heard about a program I never even knew existed that I could have taken advantage of, but they used to have an upgrade program where you could actually like
Really
trade in your card for a certain value to go towards another one of their cards.
interesting.
I probably would have used that every year if I had known it was a
Yeah.
thing.
Seriously. That's a good. Even like every other year, if you could do it, if you could wait that long.
But apparently not just this situation, but this recent situation with Nvidia making their own graphics cards. So Nvidia started making their own cards, and they're selling their own cards.
Right.
They had come to an agreement of sorts, and I don't know if it was like an actual contractual agreement or if it was like a gentleman's agreement amongst these two companies that had worked together for years.
Right.
But EVGA was worried that okay, if Nvidia controls the supply chain, they essentially they make the chip technology, and we base our cards off of that. And if Nvidia's here, we're further down the supply chain. They control so
Right.
much, like they have a way larger margin than we do on selling our cards, and so
Yeah.
you could see how EVGA would be worried that Nvidia is going to price their cards in such a way that it's going to push EVGA, out of the market. And
Right.
and so the first year, the first line of cards that Nvidia did, they were higher than MSRP. And MSRP is what EVGA would be, they would be targeting the MSRP
Yep.
price.
Yep.
And then the next line of cards, they matched MSRP. So you could get an Nvidia card and an EVGA card for similar prices.
Essentially same price. Yeah.
And then now Nvidia is cheaper. It's cheaper to buy an Nvidia card than it is to buy an EVGA card today.
Yep.
And that puts EVGA in an awkward position because they claim they are already selling cards at a loss because of the recent deflation of the graphics card market.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they're claiming, which I still find a little crazy because I mean, cards are still over $1,000 in some cases. Like, I mean, that's
Yeah.
just to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old man, but that just seems absurd. Like, I think I bought my first graphics card for $299. Like,
Yeah. No lie. Yeah.
it just seems like it's gotten out of hand no matter how you look at it. But
Phones, graphics cards, everything's gotten out of hand.
yeah. But EVGA claims that even that is at a loss. And like they can't compete with the source. Like Nvidia is the source. Like there's no way they
Yep.
can compete with that.
And EVGA's bigger problem is they outsource a lot of their components, like their fan, their cooler, all of that is outsourced.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about the board, but most of everything is outsourced.
Mm-hmm.
So they're paying a lot extra. I think they said like I don't know. I think it was in this article or the other article, something about like 5% maybe the profit margin.
Yeah, that's if there is a profit. I mean, that's probably
Well,
only
before the whole pandemic, what I should say,
yeah.
when things were normal.
And yeah, it's crazy. So they've basically decided that given no matter how you look at it, Article A suggests that EVGA is being bullied by Nvidia, and
Yeah.
they don't feel like it's fair, and they want to move away from their relationship with
Yep.
Nvidia. Article B kind of suggests that, well, it's the profit margin in the cards, and it's just not valuable to EVGA to make graphics cards anymore. So they're going to focus on the other products that they make. I think the speculation right now that I'm hearing is that they're mostly going to focus on their power supply market.
And the motherboards. Yep.
Yeah, and that probably is a really good idea, because part of this new change in Nvidia's graphics cards is you're no longer going to be able, you're going to have to, if you upgrade to a 4 series Nvidia card, you're also going to need to upgrade your power supply. Not
Oh
only,
yeah.
even if
Yep.
you've got a 1500 watt power supply, the dilemma is there's a new power supply adapter for the new Nvidia
Right.
cards.
Yep.
That's like a smart adapter, and without this, you can use like an adapter to adjust to an older power supply.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that adapter is important because it has a mechanism for your power supply to tell the graphics card on boot up, how big your power supply is, so that the graphics card will scale itself based on that.
Interesting. Wow, I didn't actually read that.
I just read about it right before we came on.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so I bet EVGA's new market will be kind of targeting those
Yeah.
types of, because I mean,
Well, it says right here in the article that they
Yeah.
make 300% more profit on their power supplies.
yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. And then this is going to drive up the need for new power supplies because
Yeah.
of that Nvidia change. So I think it's like a negotiation that happens like at boot up, and without this special adapter, without this special plug. So I hesitate to use adapter because they make adapters that don't have this plug, but
Mhm.
without the special plug, your card will just boot up, and it will just assume it can take what it needs. And so if you've
Right.
got a 600 watt power supply and the card needs 400 watts just for the card, it's just going to take it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas if you have this smart adapter, then it'll say, "Oh, you got a 600 watt. I need to chill a little bit," and it'll just take 200 watts or something like that.
Yeah.
And so
But who the heck's gonna want that?
and how different, and here's another thing too, is like there probably was a time period where like you could innovate on, like Nvidia would come out with a new chipset and a new technology for a new line of graphics cards, and then a company like EVGA or MSI, they would take that information and then they would try to adapt it and make their cards perform better than the other competition. But like today, is there really that dramatic of a difference between an MSI card, an EVGA card, or an Nvidia card? Like, there's not really a dramatic
really.
difference. Yeah.
No. I mean,
So-
every benchmark I look between them, between like Nvidia cards
It's all in the chipset.
themselves.
Yeah.
It's all That's it. It has nothing to do with what brand it is.
Yeah. I have been saying I've been saying for a while now, and I'm just now starting to feel like I'm playing games that are saying like, yo, you need to get a new graphics card. I downloaded Resident Evil 2 the remake the other day, and I can play it fine, but they've got like a little meter that shows you like it shows you how much gigs it wants to take from your graphics card,
Yeah.
and then how much you have. And when I play that game, it's like it wants like 9 gigs, but I've only got 6 gigs graphics card.
Right. Yep.
So I'm starting to feel it. I might upgrade, but I've been saying basically since we started the podcast, my next card will be Radeon card, and
Yep.
every time we do an Nvidia news story, it just makes me want to get a Radeon card even more. So
Yep.
um,
And AMD's new lineup is looking to be amazing. Like this next gen is gonna be, man,
yeah,
it's gonna be awesome.
yeah. I think maybe next episode I'll do some benchmarking and see if I can pick out a card before I gotta pay my Dragon Con off my credit card. Recently went to Dragon Con, so I pay that off. I'll buy a graphics card. Google is shutting down Stadia. We saw this coming. I don't know. I haven't heard anybody talk about Stadia like basically since the month it came out.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I
we kind of
was
talked about it a little bit, but
I honestly think we were kind of the best. Like I gave it a pretty good review, and I won't say like I don't think I was like super like you know super flowery and excited about it, but at the same time I was like this could be useful to some people,
yeah,
and it came out right at the time where it was like you could not get a graphics card.
yeah, it got the best start it could possibly get,
Yeah, yeah,
and it
it had
still
the
failed.
best chance. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. It had the best chance possible, and it still failed. It was like, you know, if you were willing to pay $6,000 for you know, a low end graphics card, you still could not get one.
710.
It was not possible. It was 100% not possible to get a
Yeah,
graphics card during that
yeah,
time period. And and if you think back to like 2020, we were like, this might be it. This might be the rest of our lives.
yeah.
And so
We
maybe
were really concerned at that point.
maybe Google Stadia is the way to go because we may never buy another graphics card. And yeah, even still, so the graphics card market started to chill out, and
Yep, yep.
it's they've announced that they are ending. You know, I liked it for like playing games with my son on our television,
Right.
and the library never changed. Like Google Stadia had the same games from the time
Yeah.
it launched to
Yep.
now. It never changed.
But good thing is that they let you have your money back if you did buy games with them.
Oh, so I never bought a game. That's interesting. So if you bought a game, they returned that
They're gonna
money.
return, yeah, they're gonna return the money you spent. Yep.
Wow.
But here's my conspiracy theory on it.
Yeah.
So they're saying that they're going to use the technologies they learned with Stadia in other aspects of Google. I mean, obviously they got to make it worth it.
Yeah.
But this is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Was the whole thing just a ploy for AI to be able to insert that into other aspects of their,
Where
ecosystem?
where do you think they'll use it?
I don't know, like YouTube for streaming, like to help with the speed of the streaming. I mean, because like they had to stream the game to the lowest latency they possibly could.
Yeah. I
I
think
mean,
I think they could use it for. It would be cool if there was a service like Stadia, but for applications
oh yeah,
like the Adobe suite. Like if Adobe
yeah,
Adobe is doing like a web version of their of various tools that they have now, and that'll be good for Linux users because we won't have to have a desktop version of. We can possibly just use a web version
yeah,
of the product. But like if there was a thing like you basically sign up for a Stadia service, but you could log into your Adobe Premiere account and then use Adobe Premiere on Linux or something like that. But the thing about that is it's so specific. Like that's such a niche
yeah.
thing. Like they're not going to use it for that. But did you hear about the Google AI that there's this data scientist that believes it's sentient? Did you ever hear about that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I did hear that. I did hear that.
I did a whole podcast about that on another show, but it's like it's a really interesting story. But I personally, and if people want to hear us talk about this, well, maybe next week we can talk about it. But because I'll talk about it for an hour if we talk about it. But I personally think that it's amazing what the scientists found, but I don't believe it's sentience. I mean,
Yeah, from what I heard of it, yeah, I agree.
yeah,
I don't believe it's
like
sentient either.
in an elevator pitch, he basically had it describe whether it was or was not sentient, and it was able to make a case either way. So if he told it to describe why it was not sentient, it could. And if it told it what to describe a case of it being sentient, it could. And he believes that even something that was not sentient would not be able to explain why it is not. And but I think that's wrong because it has all of the knowledge of Google at its disposal. Like it
Right.
can study other writers that have wrote about
Yep.
sentience. You know what I mean? Like that's where it came
Take
from.
that knowledge out of there and
Yeah. But it's still super interesting.
yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. So now we're getting to the stuff that I actually put in the show notes, but I did not read. I had this, but the listeners don't know this. I've been up all night. I've only had about 2 hours of sleep because yesterday we were supposed to do the show, and
Yeah.
where I work at, our systems all went down, and
Oof.
we were all busy all night long. And this morning everything's working again, but like I'm super exhausted. So actually I made the show notes, and I've not read these next two. So maybe we'll save them for next week,
Oh, good.
unless you know enough about it to talk about it. But there's a new never before seen malware has infected hundreds of Linux and Windows devices. I didn't even read this article, so I don't feel right talking about it if you haven't read
I
it.
I skimmed it. I mean, I didn't
Well,
really look into it, so
I'll read it. I'll read it. We'll talk about it next week, and whatever changes have happened in the meantime. I haven't heard about this one at work yet, so we'll probably there's probably like a patch or something. I'll probably be forced to learn about this next week. So, um, but Guild Wars 2 is now available on Proton. Or it's now available on Steam, so you can install it and run it on Proton. And I tried it out. We talked a lot about it. Did you ever try it out on Proton? I know that you already had it on the non-Proton.
right. I didn't get a chance to install it. I actually kind of forgot about that whole thing. So that's something
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to try out later.
yeah.
But I definitely do want to try it though. That sounds pretty cool.
We had some Discord users in the Mintcast Discord report back to us how their experience was, and it seemed to line up with mine, what I saw. And I would say that I don't remember having these issues running it on the non-Proton version, so running it just on Lutris, on the
Right.
whatever the generic Lutris installer is for Guild Wars 2. Um,
Right.
I don't remember having any problems there, but it's been a few years since I tried it, and with MMOs they change from month to month, so it could
Yep.
be that at that time it was just running great. But this time around, trying it on Proton, every once in a while I would get like a stutter in the camera movement, like in MMO
Yep.
style controls
That's exactly the problem I used to have with it on even the Lutris build.
on
I had
Lutris.
that problem.
Oh wow, okay.
Yep.
I don't remember having it on Lutris, but again, it's
You
probably timing.
had to you had to set the settings, the video settings to a certain like just you had to do this certain like
Yeah.
group of settings and then it would be okay. I
Okay.
forget exactly. It's been so long. I forget exactly what those settings were, but when I did that, it was like it was smooth then. It wasn't as good graphics quality, but it ran smooth.
Well, this time around, at least on Proton, it was not like it wasn't a big deal. Like it didn't
Right.
happen every time I moved the camera. It was just occasionally. So it didn't really bother me. The thing about Guild Wars 2 is I think that game is both genius and terrible. I have such mixed feelings about the game that I will binge it. I played that for hours on end for about 3 days, and then I just got totally bored with it and quit playing. And I'll tell you what I like about it is their questing model. The way it's like you're going through a map, and then you're discovering more and more about the
Yeah.
map. And it's different than other MMOs in that like you don't go from like here's a quest giver, you pick up their quest, you go do what it says, you come back, you turn it in, you get
Yep.
experience, yippee. It's like you kind of like get to do what you want. Like basically you go to an area, and in that area there'll be like 3 or 4 different things you can do. You can either gather apples, or you can kill spiders,
Yep.
or you can
Yep.
you choose what you want to do until you fill the bar up. And then when you fill the bar up, you get the experience for that area, and then you just move on to the next area. And you're accumulating points with these factions, and then they all have little stores. There's like
Yep.
the closest thing to a quest giver is there's a person in the area that has a little store on them where you use those points to buy things for the game. I like that mechanic. I think it's pretty innovative. I've seen, World of Warcraft has copied it. Like they perfected it, and then World of Warcraft implemented it in one of their I don't know which one it was, but one of their releases had a similar kind of, fill up the bar kind of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But what I don't like about I don't like that like in Guild Wars 2, it feels like there's no like like there's no holy trinity. There's not a tank, a healer, and a DPS. Like it's like
Right.
there's a support class, and then there's like a DPS class, but that's like I don't know. That's the part about it that I don't like, and I usually
Yeah, it's not as defined as
yeah.
like ESO or World of Warcraft.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm a boomer MMO player, man. I have a certain I like the Holy Trinity. I know a lot of modern MMOs are getting away from it. I like the way Elder Scrolls handles it, where
Yeah,
everybody has the ability to be any of the three, but you still need you still need a healer and a tank, but like
right,
anybody can fill that role if you just spec. Like you don't have to be like, oh crap,
right.
well I wish
Yep.
I'd have made a tank. You can just spec whatever you have. You can spec it to be a tank. I kind of like. I think
Yeah.
that's a good balance of how to do it.
Well, and in Guild Wars too, so each different race you can kind of like they have different, skill sets. So
Mm-hmm.
like you can kind of do that if you pick different races for your characters.
Yeah, but it's not needed. Like
Right.
they don't have like I was basically building a tank, but like for what? Like whenever I queue, it's not like I'm actually like nobody cares if I hold aggro or anything like that. Like it's not a
Right.
traditional like
Right.
tank. But yeah, depending on what weapon you pick up in Guild Wars 2, that's what changes your bar. And so you could have like, well, my support weapon will be a mace and shield, and then whenever I go with a group that needs a DPS and they already have a support, then I'm using a two-handed,
Yep.
hammer or something like that.
Right.
But I've never played it, and every time I play Guild Wars 2, I make a new character, and I've never played it like past level 30. So I don't even know what the end game is like or anything like that. So I'm probably talking completely out of my butt, and I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, even me, I haven't even played it that deeply either. Like I always surface level all of the MMOs. The only one I've actually played that I got real deep into is RuneScape.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've never really
Like
played RuneScape.
and like I just always surface level all of them. Like I've never got to like the max level in any MMO. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't play them enough.
it's one of those things where like I feel like you really had like the thing about MMOs is like they're fun if you're playing with other people,
Right.
and you've got like a group of friends and you meet and play. But they're not fun. They're mediocre games at best alone.
Alone, yeah.
Um,
ESO is probably the best one out of the bunch to play
I
alone,
like
but it's
the way
still
the like delving like you the way they're delving their dungeons and the way the quests
right.
are all voice acted, and like yeah, I really like ESO is a really good MMO. It really is. It really
It
is really good.
really is. Yeah, it's overall really good. And I think that's mostly because they use Skyrim as or just Elder Scrolls,
Yeah.
the regular franchise, as its like base, and they kind of built an MMO around that
So
already in place infrastructure.
so the topic that we were discussing, and I hesitate to get into because I know that we'll talk about it for a really long time if we really dive into it, but like is I feel like if you're playing an MMO by yourself, why? Like if you're playing an
Yeah.
MMO and you're not playing with other people, you're not doing group content. Like I feel like
It's an
Skyrim,
MMO
and
for a reason.
and not only that, but like I don't think the games are all that great. I think like if you compared Skyrim to ESO, Skyrim's a better game. And
Yes.
if you're gonna
I
play by
agree.
yourself, then play Skyrim. Like the point of
Yep.
playing Elder Scrolls over Skyrim is because you're gonna play with other people. And
Yep.
I don't
The only time it comes ahead is if you're like a lore like
yeah,
aficionado and
and then
you
you're
want to
getting
know
more yeah.
everything.
And
Yeah,
see
you definitely get more in depth.
and see that is something that is different for me in my mind. When I play MMOs, I basically don't pay attention to the lore.
Skip all the dialogue.
Yeah, yeah. I skip all the dialogue. If it's not a cutscene, I'm not. I don't read
And
any
that's
extra
why
stuff.
it takes me so long to play MMOs because I read everything, I listen to
Now,
everything, I want the story.
when I play a single player game, whether it's a RPG or I'm about to talk about some survival horror, but like if I play a single player game, it's complete opposite. I read
Right.
every scrap of paper that there is to read. I watch videos about the lore outside of the game. Like then the lore is the game to me. But for MMOs,
Yes.
it's more of the community stuff. Like I want to kill dragons with my friends. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Right. Right.
um
Gotcha.
so yeah. But right now I've been playing all single player games that's one of the things I was going to talk about this episode is like I have reaffirmed my love for single player games again. I think in the last couple episodes I had talked a lot about like, I'm gonna try this MMO out this week, and then I got bored with it, and I'm gonna try this new one out for a week, and then I got bored with it. There's this new one coming out, and I'm watching what it's gonna do, and I can't wait for it to come out because I want to try it. And every time I log in, nobody's social anymore. All the games are made in such a way that they discourage social interaction.
Yeah, you can just stand there and everyone just runs around you. Nobody talks to each other. It's kind of like whatever.
I've been playing Star Trek Online since it launched, and I've never been in a group with other people.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
I've never been, but you don't need to in that game. Everything like if you enter content, it scales to you and it scales to your group. So if you're a single person, you don't need other people. Whereas like old school MMOs, there was content that you just were not going to do if you didn't have other people. And I think that those days, like no one wants to play that way anymore. And so modern MMOs have to adjust for that, which to me defeats the whole purpose of an MMO.
Of an MMO. Yep.
So I've been playing single player games. I've been playing single player games again. And I have remembered why I used to love them so much. It's part of my game.
By myself.
Get off my lawn. This goes into my game dev talk a little bit, but as I mentioned in the last episode, I'm trying to learn Unity. And I've learned a lot since the last time we talked about it. I know how. So I spent a long time working on character movement, like learning how to move the character. There's a really easy way now to do character movement. They have Unity has like a tool that they have like their own like module that's like they have first person and third person. And it's to display their new movement system. They recently changed their movement system, and you can basically just install this module in your Unity game, and then you can use it. You can use it in your game. You can just replace their character with your character, and then bam, you got movement.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah. But I wanted to recreate, and this is going to kind of give a little bit of a spoiler into the type of game I'm trying to make. I wanted to recreate Konami, Capcom 90s horror survival style tank movement, where your character pivots on a point and then runs, and pivots on a point and then runs, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm trying to make a modern version of that, and the game that I've been playing for inspiration on how to do this in a modern way is in Resident Evil Remastered. So it's where they took the original Resident Evil and they've remastered it. Hence the name. But it's
it just looks a lot better.
It does look a lot better. But a lot of the mechanics are this. A lot of the mechanics are the same.
They really kept it mostly the same. Yeah.
And you can switch. I think they call it classic versus modern controls.
Yep. On the fly.
Yeah, and that's right. And so I kind of like tried them both out. And the thing that people may not remember about original, like classic tank style, was you always moved in direction based on your character's orientation. So if Jill Valentine was facing towards the camera, but you pushed forwards, you were going to walk Jill towards the camera because it was based on her direction. If you switch it to modern, you always walk away from the orientation of the camera. So if you push forward in that same scenario, Jill's facing the camera, but if you push forward, she's gonna walk away from the camera because it's forward means forward in relation to the camera direction. I decided to go with that because probably when I was a kid, I probably played the original and it felt normal because I had not played anything else. But I feel like in today, like you would probably use the more modern version of it.
Oh yeah, it took me a little while to get back used to that way of playing when I first started playing the remastered one because I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It's like it's totally different.
And I can't remember if you play the Resident Evil 0 that they have on Steam. I don't think it's remastered. I think it's just the original Resident Evil 0, but I can't remember if it's the modern style tank movement or if it's the old style.
I don't know. I didn't look into that
I
one.
have it, but I haven't installed it in so long. I haven't tried it. But I took that, so I made a I made a whole project just for like getting the movement down. Only I added in, well, what could you do to kind of add like a modern flair to this? So I added in like a focus. I called it a focus mechanism. So if
Mhm.
you right click, then you still fix camera just like original Resident Evil, where the camera has like a follow mechanism, but it stays in one place, like a security camera kind of thing, like classic
Yep.
Resident Evil.
Yep.
But if you right click, the camera would move into like a over the shoulder view, and then what? And you couldn't.
Oh yeah.
And then you could move. You could look around, but you couldn't move in that state. And then whenever you take your finger off of the right click, it would go back to its original,
That
monitoring.
that is pretty
position.
freaking cool because sometimes you're like looking down this hallway and you
Yeah.
just don't know what's there
Oh
and you're
yeah.
like, "Man, I wish I could see. I wish I could see down this hallway."
There's so many times where you see Jill Valentine standing there with her gun, and you hear the zombie.
Ugh.
But yeah, you don't know if should I shoot yet or should I? Because you
Yeah.
can't see past the camera.
Yeah. I really want to save my bullets, so I want to knife this thing, but man, where is it?
Yeah, but my problem is, so I had like an animation set. Oh, and I'm doing this with Cinemachine is the name of the module for that.
Mhm, mhm.
So Cinemachine allows you to have one main camera, but then you set up these Cinemachine positions, and you can set it so that whenever the character walks into range, it switches cameras.
Okay.
And then I had one Cinemachine camera that followed the character, but it was only active if you right clicked. And so that was how it got the motion to go to the over the shoulder view kind of thing. But it kind of
Okay.
made me dizzy a little bit because like if you're navigating from this like top down approach and then all of a sudden you're looking like over the character's shoulder, and the problem I'm running into right now is that like I can't have the camera it faces, once it goes over the shoulder, it could be like facing the character's face, or it's hard to get it to every time I want it to show up over the shoulder. You know what I mean? So
Right, and
I'm
looking
still
towards
working
where the
on
person's looking.
yeah, working on that out. But I also learned to do and I'm still working on this, melee and like attack animations.
Mhm, mhm.
So I'm downloading character models. I can't make character models. I'm not an artist in that way. Although I do know
Yeah.
somebody that knows how to do 3D modeling, but he doesn't know how to do animation.
I,
So
I I always run into that same that
yeah,
same thing. Is like I'm not an artist at all. I
I
cannot make characters, but
I know somebody, and you do too. Our friend Graham, he can do 3D modeling, but I don't know that he could make an entire character and also animate it. But if I took a pre-made and pre-animated character, he might could adjust it. You know what I mean?
yeah, oh yeah.
Um,
I bet you he could. I bet you any money he could.
Yeah, because like there's a character that I recently purchased from the asset store, but I want her to be wearing a hoodie, and I'm thinking about getting with him to see if he can put a hoodie on her instead of what she's currently wearing. But so I'm still working on learning melee. I have no idea how to shoot a gun yet.
Oh man.
Yeah, I had no idea. I got a long way to learn about that. But right now,
Maybe you should start with clubs first.
yeah, I'm starting with a crowbar. I'm trying to get my
Yeah,
character
right. Start
to
with the
carry a
crowbar.
crowbar and hit with a crowbar, but I'm still working on that. I actually was working on that earlier today, and I thought I had it. I don't know. I ran into a roadblock earlier today, so I don't know it as good as I thought I did. But I've also been learning about rendering pipelines. There's a lot of stuff to get into and learn with Unity,
Oh man, I can't even imagine, dude.
but it's all easily obtainable though. Like there's lots of tutorials, there's lots of
Yeah, oh yeah.
YouTube
Yep.
videos, and there's lots of different ways to do different things. So a lot of the stuff that I'm learning to do, I could just buy a $90 bundle that would do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like do that. Like if that's what's stopping you from making this great idea that you've had in your head, I
Yeah.
don't think there's any shame in doing that. But
We want to play the game that you haven't made yet. So make it.
the most of the reason I haven't done that is because I want to learn about it so I can talk about it on the podcast. But
Right.
if it wasn't for that, there's a horror pack because I'm trying to make a horror game. If people didn't figure that out yet,
Really? No.
there's a horror pack. I think it's it's $100. It's like I think it's like $90, but they're always having sales and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I picked up 2 humble bundles since our last episode that were all like I mean, it was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of
Mm-hmm.
Unity
Oh yeah,
assets.
and dude, you're getting right into the season too. I didn't even
Yeah,
think about that, but like we're coming right into it.
yeah. But I bought a bunch of asset that like I bought a card game asset on Humble Bundle. I bought the whole bundle for $30, and this one asset alone was $200. So like, yeah. So
Whoa.
watch Humble Bundle. I'm not even using that yet, but it's just such a good deal. I just went in and did it. Um, but yeah, there's this one hard like first person shooter asset that you can buy. It's like $100, and you literally have everything you need to make a game. You probably don't want to use their generic assets because then everybody's gonna see that your game looks like everybody else's game. You probably want to replace those, but the core mechanics of it would be there. But I'm just trying
But
to learn
have a good
everything
story.
individually. Yeah, you gotta have a good story. So I have been thinking about the type of game that I want to make, and originally I was wanting to make something multiplayer, but that was just too complicated. It's way more
Right.
complicated than you think.
Gotcha.
It's not a matter of okay, well, I'm gonna make a single player game and then allow more than one user into the world. It is there's a whole finesse to it that I'm just not ready to tackle yet. And
That's Valheim level.
yeah, no, dude, this has made me appreciate Valheim so much. Like, yeah, no, going through this whole thing, I appreciate indie made games so much more now. I had no idea. Um, so what I've been doing is I really want to make like a Konami, Capcom '90s adventure survival horror style game. Um, I have a plot. I know what my premise is. I'm not ready to reveal it yet. I've already changed it twice, so you know
Ah.
it could change. But I've landed on a really good one that I think I'm going to go with. And the good thing about it is it could be big or it could be small. Right now,
Okay.
I'm kind of thinking that I've planned too much, and I need to tone it down a little bit. So
Gotcha.
I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to make like if you think about like Resident Evil 2 or like Silent Hill 2,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where they start out in one area, then they go to like 2 other, like they change scenery like 2
Yep.
or 3 times.
Yeah.
I may just do like one area, and I want to have puzzles, where like you have to find a crank to open a door
Yeah.
to
Right.
do all that stuff. But it's expandable. Like the concept I have, I could expand on it. So if I get there quickly and it seems like I could do more, I could make it more. But maybe I could just make a really short game just as a proof of concept. I just did this to learn. So it'd be a good example. And whatever I do, I'll make sure is if I actually make anything successful, if something prints out from this thing, I'll make sure it's available to podcast listeners. But
Yeah.
it'll be, and obviously I'm making it on Unity because I'm targeting Linux obviously, and so it should be playable. I have no idea how that works yet, but
Yeah. Like, how do you test on either way? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Right now, I've been developing it on.
hey, I'm here. I could be a tester.
Oh yeah, for sure. I made a GitLab project for it, but I haven't
Dude,
updated my Git. It's
I
not
just
updated.
I just had like an epiphany right now.
Yeah.
Dude, so after my Arch install,
Mm-hmm.
like that's what we got to target.
Mm.
Like I have to only play the game on Arch, and we just have to
Yeah.
troubleshoot for Arch.
I don't think it'll be that complicated because I've been developing it in both places, but I have not in Windows or in Linux yet. I've not rendered anything to like an executable, and so I'm assuming that as long as I have the packages, like in Unity, there's a place where you say that you need the Android packages or the Switch Nintendo Switch packages or the Windows
Right.
pack, and I'm assuming that as long as I check the box for Linux,
It should work.
yeah. But I've got no idea. I don't know. It can't, in a way, it can't be that easy, but in a way, maybe it is that easy. I
Yeah,
don't know.
you're thinking like, man, there's got to be a catch here,
Yeah,
man.
there's
This
gotta
can't
be
be
a
this
catch.
good.
But I'm so far from even being ready to test that yet.
Dude, I'm so excited for this though. You can't stop.
So I've been playing. I will reveal the plot. Maybe next week I'll drop hints every so
Yeah,
often.
yeah. Don't reveal it. Just drop some
Um,
hints. Yeah.
right now I'm deciding between if it should be Resident Evil 4 over the shoulder style or like classic Resident Evil tank style. I am really nostalgic to the tank style, but I'm afraid that no one wants to play that type of game anymore. So I don't know. I would be interested. Anybody listening, if they want to let us know if what your
Yeah, I
opinion
mean,
on that is.
I personally would prefer the tank style. Like I like
Really?
that.
Okay.
I do. I like so
I prefer it too.
it's nostalgia for me, to be honest. It really is because like it kind of it does get frustrating at a point
Yeah.
because I haven't played it in so long, but I think if I really dove into the game and I actually went through the whole game, I think by the end I would start to get to enjoy it again.
I think it is depending on the style of game you're trying to make. Like if you're trying to make something that's real cinematic, like you're playing a movie, then
Yeah.
the tank style is better because then you control the
Right.
cameras. You can make it as dramatic or as cinematic as you
Oh
want.
yeah. Right.
Versus like Resident Evil 4 is a great game, but you it's way more like you're playing a game versus the earlier Resident Evils where it was like you're
You were
surviving a
in a
movie.
movie and you're trying to
Right.
figure out, yeah.
Yeah. And also Unity's so flexible that I almost think that I could make it an option where you could switch back and forth. But
That'd be cool.
is that the right thing to do though? I mean, there is a certain element of like you want people to experience your game the way you intended it. So maybe you don't give them the option even if it is easy to implement the option. But I don't know. Right now I'm working on both. For one thing, in the development phase, it's easier to have the over the shoulder camera because then I can kind of walk around the environment, make sure everything lines up the way I want it to as I'm
Okay,
making
yeah, I
it.
see. I see what you're
Um,
saying there, yeah.
but I got some really exciting games that I've been playing in preparation. So I mentioned Resident Evil Remastered. I actually never played that game all the way through, so I am almost at the end of it now. I've been playing it, and
Oh wow, okay. That's cool.
yeah, even the original Resident Evil, I never finished. I mean, I know the storyline, but I was pretty young when it came out, and like I used to play that with my cousins, and we just thought it was neat that we could make Jill Valentine play the piano with a shotgun in her hand. Like it was, like we didn't really understand what we were doing, and I never made it all the way to the very end. My first game in general that I played all the way through to the end was Resident Evil 2. That was probably the first game I ever beat beginning to end. And so I never beat the first one. This will be the first time I've actually gone all the way through it. But I can tell I'm really close to the end. And it's a lot of fun. I like it. I actually am like feeling kind of like I'm playing it on normal. I was scared to pick hard and I didn't want to pick easy because I felt like I was chickening out. But honestly,
Dude, yeah.
I think there's probably a big gap between normal and hard because
There is.
yeah, because I think hard would have been like super hard, but I
You
like
you just get nothing when you're in hard mode.
yeah.
There's like you get like 2 bullets.
Yeah. Yeah, so like right now in the beginning of the game, I felt like it was like I was struggling to get bullets. I've had health the entire game. Like I rarely need to use any kind of health. I still have the first aid sprays that you start with. I still have all
Yeah.
those. I've basically just
Wow.
been using the plants. And even in plants, I mean my chest is like full of plants. Like I never use them. I never use the poison plants hardly. Like it's I'm actually surprised that it's as easy as it is. I'm actually more confused by some of the puzzles. I'm like, what the hell do I got this? I've been carrying around this piece forever. Where the fuck does this go? Sorry, I didn't mean to say the F-bomb. But like yeah, I've been more confused by the puzzles than I have actually like running out of bullets or health. Um
Yeah, exactly. Yep, yep. That's usually
yeah.
the thing for me is the puzzles.
Yeah, but classic Resident Evil was always like scarcity. You couldn't possibly kill every zombie. You had to run
Yeah.
past or use
Yep.
your knife on as many zombies as you could.
Just hope, yeah, hope you can kill them all with a knife.
Yeah, but the remaster's not quite that way. So, I've been playing that. I'm almost done with that. But that reminded me of how much I loved Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is quite possibly my favorite game of all time.
Wow, okay.
And I know
Okay.
I know that I've talked about it here, but probably not a lot because Resident Evil and Metal Gear are my favorite franchises, and I talk about them a lot. But Silent Hill, the franchise as a whole, I don't necessarily like all of those games. But
Right.
Silent Hill 2 in particular is like my favorite. Like it is such a good game. Have you ever played Silent Hill 2 or do you know anything about it?
I played Silent Hill, but I never played Silent Hill 2.
So the unique thing about Silent Hill 2 is it's actually like a bottle story. It's not connected to the other games.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, and so you can play
Huh.
Silent Hill 2 and completely you don't need to know anything about any of the other games.
I'll have to look into that then.
Well, like I have a great thing for you then. I haven't tried this on Linux yet. I only have it on Windows, but I will. I'll try it on Linux and we'll get it working, guys. I don't think it's that complicated. But you can get Silent Hill 2. There's a
Mm-hmm.
PC version of the game that's almost impossible to find.
Oh boy.
Legally, that you can easily download it. If you just Google Silent Hill 2 PC or whatever, you can find websites. I think I got it from some defunct, like it's like a website that posts defunct games, like games that are completely out of print. You can't find them anymore.
Right.
And you know you can get you can get the
Almost like an archive.
right, yeah. And that's the way this is. This came out so long ago. It's really hard to find. But if you download the PC version of the game, now it has DRM, so you can't launch it. But
Gotcha.
there is a fan made HD remaster of Resident Evil,
Hmm.
and I'll have the link in the show notes.
You mean Silent Hill or Resident Evil?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was a misspeak. It's of Silent Hill 2. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So
yeah. Okay.
there's a Silent Hill 2 fan made remaster. I think it's called Silent Hill 2. I actually had the tab open. If I Control Shift T, I bet I can find it.
Silent Hill 2, the fan made remaster.
Yeah, I might just have to Google it. But there is a fan made remaster that if you use their, so you have to have a PC copy of the game, and then you download their like patcher that patches in their
Okay.
remaster.
Yep.
You'll use their launcher so that you launch it with their upgraded textures and things, and then the game
Right.
then the game will run without DRM.
Yep.
And
That's kind of like the Oblivion remaster that they're working on.
oh yeah, oh
Same
yeah,
deal. If you have the game, you can launch it once they release their remaster.
and you know I wouldn't I wouldn't necessarily suggest anybody ever like download a copy. I mean, I get it. Of course, I've done it in the past, but on a podcast, I would never recommend people to do that.
No, yeah. I
But
mean, I
this
agree.
is a game that's completely defunct. Like you're not going to go find this in a store anywhere. You can't buy it on Steam. You can't buy a digital version of it. There's other Silent Hills you can buy, but Silent Hill 2 in particular, especially for the PC, you can't buy it. Even if you try to buy it for like your PlayStation, you're gonna have to buy some like copy of it from some game store that probably is pretty expensive. And it's still hard to find. And so it's called Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition, by the way. That's the fan made.
Enhanced edition.
Yeah, it's at silenthillmemories.net. But it's really good. So I played the game with their enhancements turned off, and it was wildly different than my childhood imagination, what I remembered of it.
Right.
But then when you turn their enhancements on, it modernizes it enough that it's like oh, this is exactly how I remembered. It's not. It's way better than you remember, but it's what your mind used to fill the gaps for, you know? Like they have remastered that and made it. So I'm actually planning on streaming this on Sunday. I've always said I was going to stream a game and then I chicken out, but I feel like this is a unique enough game that like no one's going to jump in and tell me I'm playing Silent Hill 2 wrong. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Right.
you know, it's just nostalgia and fun, and I think that'll be a fun thing for me to finally get over my fear of video game streaming. So on Sunday I've set a scheduled event on our channel, and I'm gonna try my best to not chicken out and stick to that. But yeah, Silent Hill 2 is great because it's a bottle story. It feels like you're playing a movie, just like I said, but it's a very artistic movie. If Resident Evil would be like a Hollywood blockbuster action flick or suspense, where Silent Hill 2 would be like, you know, your Japanese art film, you know what I mean? Like it would be something a lot more underground, a lot more je ne sais quoi. It's a very cool game. The premise is the main character receives a letter from his recently deceased wife who says that she is waiting for him at Silent Hill, and they have like a history of visiting Silent Hill together when they were together. And
Right.
so he goes to the town to see if he can find her. And when he gets there, of course, it's like in Silent Hill 1, the game, it's like all covered in fog, everything's spooky. The other characters that he runs into whenever he's entering Silent Hill are other characters that are on similar paths. Like there's one character that's trying to find her dad and her brother. Like there's all these characters are there, kind of like following these similar kind of unfinished business, kind of, so to speak, to take from Casper
Right.
the Friendly Ghost. So I don't want to spoil anything, but all of the events that happen in the game, every character seems to have their own set of events that happen. They're not all experiencing the same things in the town.
Right.
And what our main protagonist is facing, the enemies in the town, the sort of zombie radioactive creatures, are all like reflections of different things from his past and from his internalized.
Hmm.
If I say too much, it'll be too revealing. And people that are really into the game, they know what I'm talking about. But this is the game that invented Pyramid Head, and part of this.
Okay.
So part of the speculation of this game is that they used Pyramid Head after this game in other games because the movie kind of popularized it.
Right.
But the truth is, Pyramid Head should only exist in Silent Hill 2 because all of the enemies in this game are all coming from this main character, which is not in any of the other games. But
right.
But yeah, Silent Hill 2 is a fantastic game. So I'm looking into that. And then I also tried out something called PCSX2, which is a PlayStation emulator. I also am running this on Windows, although I will try it on Linux. This one might be a little bit harder. They actually have a Linux build of it, so I guess if you just use that build, it probably runs without any manipulation. I'm thinking about that right now. I haven't tried it. But here I want to try a game that I never heard of until researching survival horror for my game. I heard about this game called Haunting Ground, which is just sort of this really hard to find legendary PlayStation 2 game that came out in the same time period as Resident Evil 4. And it was kind of overshadowed by Resident Evil 4, but it's like a survival horror where you're a character that's running around and you have to hide and keep from panicking and that sort of thing. It's not like a over-the-shoulder shooter the way Resident Evil 4
more of like a suspense game, kind of.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Clock Tower series, which I'm not as familiar with. I do remember playing one when I was younger, but it was way over my head, and it's not a franchise I stuck with. But people compare it to that franchise because they're both like, you run and hide and you can panic. It's not about killing your pursuer. It's about running and hiding and trying to trap them, push things on them.
Okay, so it's like
that.
Alien Isolation, kind of.
Yeah. That's probably a pretty modern comparison. Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't played that one yet, but that's another game I would like to play eventually.
I've played it, but I haven't played it all the way through. But I've played it, and it gets amazing reviews. I got that for free on how every once in a while Twitch will be like, oh, claim your free such and such or whatever. And
right, yeah.
To me, they always seem like they're like how are they going to give me a free game every month? This has to be a scam. But that's how I got Alien Isolation. So it was real.
Must be a scam. Give me stuff for free.
It can't be real.
Linux is a scam. It's free. No.
It's free as in beer, free as in speech, man. So I've been on a total survival horror journey.
Oh
lately.
no, dude! I wish. Oh man,
that's what I loved whenever I was a kid, man. That was like when I first started playing video games. That's what I loved. Dino Crisis. I've been watching a lot of videos about Dino Crisis,
man. Oh man, that was my game.
I love Dino Crisis.
I love Dino Crisis.
We've talked about that before. I actually almost. And I'm still on the fence about it. I actually almost said my Unity project was going to be a straight ripoff of Dino Crisis because
just a straight ripoff.
Straight ripoff because the game doesn't exist anymore. The game is hard to find. You got to find an original PS1 copy of it.
Yep.
There's no, it's not even available on this PlayStation Network. I think it might be in Japan, but it's not in America. And there's
Yeah.
no rumors of a remake or anything of it. So like
Man,
it's about to get lost to time, you know?
that's so sad.
And that's why I want to dive more into this PCSX 2 project where they're emulating PlayStation games, because it really, it really is sad to think that some of these games like won't exist anymore unless you buy a
Yeah.
$200 copy of it off of eBay and you buy a used PlayStation 1. You know what I mean? Like,
And so the thing with that is too, it's like these CDs are not going to last forever either.
yeah, there's a limit to
The
that.
data on them
Yeah.
is going to go bad, and once that's done, I mean, if it's not uploaded to the internet, you might as well just give up.
Yeah, no, that's true. I downloaded Dino Crisis for the PCSX 2, but it was the first game that I downloaded, and it didn't work. But I probably wasn't doing it right. I probably wasn't doing something right.
So
Haunting Ground
when you're
worked
getting
right
into
away,
the
though.
obscure, yeah, when you're getting into the obscure gaming emulation like that, it is tough.
Yeah.
To get it working, because like I did a lot of gaming emulation back in the day, and man, like GameCube games, try to get them running good.
Yeah, I
That is
know.
like impossible.
I want to play Resident Evil remake for the GameCube, and so I want to try to
That's the
get
one
it.
that I remember the most, is that one.
That one is probably
for
the
the
perfect.
GameCube.
That is probably the best rendition because it's still the classic game, but just modernized. If you play RE Remastered, it's very different than the original game. It's very similar, but it's very different also.
Yeah.
But I've been watching video after video about just Japanese survival horror. I don't really know what the genre is called because I also consider Metal Gear in this same kind of genre, but it's not a horror game, you know?
Right.
And Dino Crisis borderlines horror, but it really is a sci-fi. You know what I mean? It's sort of sci-fi horror.
Yep.
And I think that the game that I'm making, and next week maybe I'll talk about the plot a little bit more, but the game that I'm making, it falls more in that sci-fi adventure more than it does necessarily survival. There's no zombies or anything in my game. It could be dinosaurs though.
That dude, you're
No, I looked at some models for dinosaur. I don't think I could afford to make it I don't think I could afford to make a Dino Crisis remake. I'd have to buy a bunch of
that'd
dinosaur
be
models.
so cool. So there's this really weird game called The Isle.
Yes.
And
yes.
you play as a dinosaur.
I know. I saw it. It looks from the cover, it looks like it's going to be Dino Crisis, but you play as the dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I remember when we saw that, we in an early podcast, we were looking at like indie dev announcements or it was like an indie dev con or something, and we saw that game and we were like, "Oh man, it's a Dino Crisis knockoff," you know, but it's not. It's not at all. Yeah. If it was, I would have bought it. See, that's what I'm saying. I think maybe we need to make a Dino Crisis knockoff.
Dude, yeah, that would be so awesome. But it has to be so close to the original because the original is so good.
You could do a different. So, here's the thing: do they really own the rights to a shooter puzzle that the enemy is dinosaurs? Like, there's no way
that's true.
That specific. If you actually took their characters and their storyline, yeah, that's probably illegal.
Yeah.
But if you just make a game where the enemy is dinosaurs,
so like
you could do that,
dude. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, but no, okay. So picture this.
Yeah.
A Dino Crisis based game with the story of shoot. Now I'm blanking. Crowbar
of Half-Life.
Half-Life. Yeah. Can you not like the
it's
not
really
the
similar.
literal story, but
you
like
know what's funny though? You know what's funny though? They literally are the same story if you really think about it. Like a group of scientists,
right, actually.
Yeah, a group of scientists open portals to what they open.
Dude,
an
no, you are
experiment
right.
goes bad. They open portals to. In Dino Crisis, it's to another time where they're bringing dinosaurs into their time.
Right.
But in Half-Life, obviously, it's to another dimension. But like, it's a very similar. Like, it's a science experiment
I didn't even think
going
of
awry.
that, but yeah, that's like identical.
Yeah, they're really close. They're really close. And I think you could do something else. I don't know.
But like, I'm talking about like the quality of story in Half-Life.
Oh yeah.
But with like a Dino Crisis like tie-in.
Yeah,
Dude, that'd be amazing.
yeah. I think we just take what we do is we just take Half-Life, leave Gordon Freeman, leave all the scientists, but we replace all the models for the head crabs and all that. We replace them with raptors. Yeah, and we just
Oh
make it a
man. And
mod.
all you have is a crowbar.
We can make you only have the crowbar.
Just beating raptors with a crowbar.
Or better yet, give him the portal gun. Just get a portal gun.
Oh.
Or a the gravity gun from the later the gravity gun, yeah. All right, well, I don't got anything else for this episode if you don't.
Nope. Man, that was a good episode. That was good.
Yeah, it was. It was good. I've been again, I feel like I took up the whole show just talking about what
Nah,
I
you're
learned on
good.
Unity, but
You're good.
I
This topic is so fascinating to me. I wish I could be there to help. Like
I want you to help. I want you to help, man. I got to figure out how
like
to
how
we're going to start a indie game company, Crowbar Kernel Panic. And every game you only have a crowbar because we never learned how to make guns. And so every game you only have a crowbar. That's our thing.
It's amazing. Oh man, I love that.
Technically, I haven't learned how to make the crowbar work yet, but I'm still working on it.
Fighting like Halo style aliens with a crowbar.
Yeah, I'm getting close. I'm getting close.
Oh man.
All right. Well, thanks for joining. We will see you next week, and peace.
See ya.